Hey guys, this is the Merg again. Welcome to passive diffusion. Remember in the previous lesson about the cell membrane being semi-permeable? Well, it's very important to know that this cell membrane freely allows small and nonpolar or lipid-soluble substances to pass through it. Every scientist who studies the cell knows the word diffusion. Diffusion is defined as the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration until they are equally distributed. In this lesson, we're going to talk about movement that is oftentimes described as passive because it does not require the use of energy. When both sides have equally distributed molecules, we call it equilibrium. But it's not the kind of equilibrium where everything is at a standstill. No, during equilibrium, molecules are both entering and exiting the cell at the same rate, meaning there's no net movement. Now, let's get down to business with the title, Osmosis. This term is regarding the movement of water itself. When you hear the word tonic, think the word water outside the cell, the water in the environment. Trust me, it's really important that you understand the meaning of these words very well. Remember, we're talking about the movement of water molecules. Typically, water will move from an area of lower solutes to an area of more solutes. By the way, solutes are just dissolved particles. You can think of them something like salt granules. Tonicity is the ability of the extracellular solution to move into or out of the cell. It is a process we call osmosis. So if we say that something is HYPOtonic, we're referring to the outside of the cell. We're saying that it means there are more solutes outside of the cell than there are inside. Since the membrane won't allow solutes to pass through it, water itself does the moving. And as a result, water from inside the cell will leave the cell and move out, shriveling the cell up. Take blood cells, for example. If a red blood cell were to be placed in a hypertonic solution, water from the inside of that cell would seep out towards the higher concentration of solutes outside. We are referring to the solution that surrounds the cell of the egg once more. In a hypotonic solution, the solute is low in concentration outside of the cell, and so water is building up a pressure to move itself through the semi-permeable membrane. As a result, the cell swells up. If red blood cells, for example, were placed inside a hypotonic solution, then water would enter the cell until the cell burst. This is known as lysis, and specifically in medicine, it's termed hemolysis. Another thing to know is isotonic. This is an easy one. It means that the concentration of solutes to water are the same inside the cell as well as outside the cell. If you were to drop a red blood cell into an isotonic solution, nothing would happen to the cell. Equilibrium is already happening. So what does osmosis mean? It's the flow of water for what we can sometimes call solvent through a semi-permeable membrane from a region of low to high solute concentration until that equilibrium is established. Let's talk a little bit about osmotic pressure, because sometimes this term can be a little confusing. Now that we know what we know, take this U tube, for example. It's the best way to explain what osmotic pressure is. This tube is filled with two types of substances. The left side of the tube is a solution with a mixture of water and lots of solutes inside of it. The right is just pure 100% water with no solutes. Right there at the bottom center is a semi-permeable membrane that only allows water to cross. Solutes are too big to cross through it, and based on what we've talked about so far, we now know that water will move from right side to left side to ease the heavy concentration of solutes, while the right side begins to shrink down. At some point, it will all stop. Eventually, the added weight of the extra water to the left causes enough pressure to stop osmosis. It is the pressure needed to stop osmosis from occurring. It's the pressure needed to prevent the inward flow of water across the semi-permeable membrane. Well, there you have it. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. If you have any questions, please comment below. Bye.